Hey guys, it's me, Stormie, tonight talking to you about the Pluto signs. And your Pluto sign is all about self-empowerment. It's about transformation. It's about coming face to face, head to head, toe to toe with some fears that we have of letting go of things when really it's time for us to let it go because it can't continue to stay in our minds. It can't continue to stay in our soul level work and we continue to be healthy. So your Pluto sign, when you look at it, it's really going to be connected to transformation. It's going to be connected to some life challenges you're going to have. It's also really a planet that is big about being over the masses. So if you are a person who is a teacher of some variety, or something like that, you're really going to see that your Pluto shows you a lot of information about how you work in the masses, some social and personal power you have, also the powerlessness that you have in your life as well. So when we are looking at Pluto signs, it is about going inward. And the nice thing about Pluto is that it really is pushing us to change. It's pushing us to uncomfortable places so that we can move forward, have the willingness to move forward. The uncomfortable thing about Pluto is that even though it's our smallest planet, its power is subtle but huge at the exact same time. And Pluto doesn't usually package things very nicely. He just goes on ahead and lets you have it, and it's hard. It's usually horrific, actually, and it's like the most frustrating thing. And then once it comes to the light, you become free. So let's get to talking about what happens when you have Pluto in different signs. Pluto in Aries. People that have the Pluto in Aries placement are generally very extremely active. On the negative side, and the part that could definitely use some transformation, is that this sign can be very willful, very impulsive, very brash. They're quick to look at a situation and see what they can get out of it instead of what they can put into it. They usually have a quick enough wit to only have to look at the situation very briefly to understand exactly how to make all of those things happen. They never hesitate to take things in a new direction. If it's not working out, these people are quick to turn it about, which is actually something that is a negative and a positive for this placement. Now, on the super positive, they can be very optimistic. They accomplish a lot on their own personal steam, and they will probably at some point in their lives attempt to have like a rebirth or a remaking of themselves or a creative new beginning or some kind of new start. So those are just some common things of what happens when Pluto is in Aries. People with the placement of Pluto in Taurus generally are very persistent. They are not quick to make any changes or improvements to themselves, even with the push of Pluto. It usually happens generally very slowly. They tend to be very materialistic and have a very hard time letting go of the material stuff once it comes to them. Now, one of the beautiful things about Pluto in Taurus is that these people are generally very talented and have a gift for networking, social networking, getting out there. And the thing is, they're generally doing it because they would like to increase their own name and their own status, but they're happy to take you along with them. Now, the thing is that this can be an absolutely obsessive behavior that they have to be careful about, because it can be so obsessive to the fact that they have to be everywhere and they have to be out. They have to have their name in the mouths of people in social circles and things like that. And it becomes this place of where they're always seeking more. They're never happy with what they have. They have lost their attitude of gratitude about life a little bit, and it's just the accumulation of more, especially in the physical sense. So that is just a little bit of what happens when people have Pluto in Taurus. Pluto in Gemini. Now, generally people with this kind of placement, they interact well with other people. They are absolutely intellectual. They love to be intellectually stimulated. They like innovation. As long as they're stimulated, they can usually be pretty happy. They want to learn and gather as much information as they possibly can. And that's literally how they go about making these Pluto transformations as well. Instead of it being a very physical thing necessarily, this can be the kind of placement where they change themselves and they work towards these changes in an innovative way, but at a very intellectual level as well. They like to bring new ideas to the table. They have new ideas. They would be great, like, to help a new startup business because they have so many great ideas of where they can go and how you can do this. And they have such great and usually advanced levels of communication and knowledge of just everything in the world because they're such information gatherers that this makes them really, really useful. Now, they have to be careful not to have so much knowledge that they actually become a know-it-all and start to isolate and shift away some of the people who would seek to ordinarily be in their social circles. So it's really interesting to see these people with this kind of placement make the changes that need to be happening in life, make the soul level work kind of changes, but do it in a very, very intellectual manner. They're also interested in secrets. They love that. They love information that is visible. They love information that is hidden. So things that are secret, things that are about life, things that are about death, questions that we maybe can't even fully answer in this realm. These are the people who are also looking for that kind of information. People who have Pluto in Cancer tend to be very intensely emotional. They have intense and deep relationships. They are very passionate towards the people that they love. They are usually try to be so controlling of the people they love's emotions because they really want everybody to be taken care of. They really need to have emotional control over things. And because they feel everything so intensely, sometimes it's really difficult for them to let go of people or possessions, things that they treasure. And honestly, when you see people in this kind of placement, when like an ending of a relationship is coming or something like that, they usually try to control how it ends. They try to like kind of create a soft landing or a cozy landing for everybody when it's all said and done. And one other really big thing about this placement is that they usually have some tie to childhood ideas. And if they have lacked something in their childhood, such as like the emotional connection or getting needs met when they were children, they really have a lot of that to work through in this lifetime. So since the sense of security and these deep relationships and all of these childhood things come up, some of the really big work that people with Pluto in Cancer placement are going to experience is a sense of having their security shaken, kind of over and over again, so that they can learn and understand that it's okay to have security, then to let it go, and to have security and to let it go, and to also redefine what security means. This sign is really going to experience a lot of healing in this life and nurturing and caring if they can tap in and remember to let go a little bit more and do some of that nice inner transformative Pluto work. People with the Pluto and Leo placement are often very optimistic. They're bright. They are flamboyant. They tend to have a very colorful feel to them. Now, this is also the sign placement that really empowers these people to take leadership positions because they believe they know what's best for everybody. They know how to get them there. And they really like to be in that leadership kind of spotlight because it really helps push them along to their own goals. Now, the problem with this and some of the work that comes along with this is that they've got to learn to detach from their own personal goals, take a leadership to actually be of service instead of just trying to get to their own goals, because they really can lose sight of the big picture and get bogged down in a lot of egoism and a lot of egotism if they get stuck in that. And they lose sight of being a part of the community and being the whole, because this is the sign placement where you can really see these people looking like they're part of a community, but they're actually standing off by themselves so that they can kind of do whatever they want. They often will splurge on the things that they want instead of paying attention to their needs. So again, some more of this lifetime working at detachment and getting to what actually needs to be done, what is of service, separates that egoism and allows that big picture kind of perspective to come in for people with this sign placement. People with the Pluto in Virgo placement tend to be very analytical, very inventive, very critical, very, very organized, usually to the point of a little bit of an obsession, where even if you have pencils on your desk, they may straighten them out in a very casual way while you're talking, and then you move one out of place, and they do their very best not to be annoyed by it, but they are. But one of the great things is that they're so good at organizing, but the fall apart of that is that they get so invested in what they're organizing that they can literally lose the emotional sense of connection to those around them, and it becomes almost an obsession as to what they're working on. This is also a sign placement that is generally very interested in health and in alternative health practices. And this is the kind of sign that whether it be health, whether it be a project, whether it be any of these things, they want to take it apart completely and then rebuild it from the ground up so they know it's the very best that it could ever be. Because this sign genuinely believes they can probably improve upon whatever's already been created because they're just so genius. Now, the other thing that they have to watch out and grow out of this is that they can be so analytical and they can be so critical that when they get it back, they genuinely have a fear of usually hearing criticism. They don't generally take it well. The other thing is that because they are so willing to sacrifice themselves, and they really are, they would sacrifice their own security or comfort for that of those around them to be of service, but this puts them in danger of being in that doormat kind of position. So this is some of that soul level empowerment work that Pluto works on when Pluto's in Virgo. People who have the Pluto in Libra placement can be a little bit extra sensitive. They can be compulsive. They want to understand the world around them, but they act before they fully thought something through, which is really interesting because Libra usually spends a lot of time balancing those scales. But when you look at these people on like a wide social scale, these are the people out there helping to reform injustice because they want fairness. They want to create harmony. That's the way they transform themselves, is by helping to create harmony. That's the way they transform the world around them, is by helping to create harmony. They're very, very diplomatic, and they have the gift of compromise and charm, which also doesn't help. Transformative charm, if you've never seen that in action, you're definitely missing out. And it's cool because they are usually able to dive into a situation and just get through all the nonsense by weighing it out, looking for the justice. Now, when these people see a lot of problems is when there is an absolute one side is going to win or one side is going to lose type of situation, because to them it feels like a personal inner injustice has just happened because there's no balancing and weighing of the scales, and it's almost can be something that kind of puts them in a paralytic stage where they're like paralyzed with fear. They're paralyzed with sorrow over the injustices of the world. But the thing is that they genuinely want to do what they can to make justice happen and to also create balance. And they work diligently at making all of their relationships work as well. And that is the way that they use their transformative Pluto energy if you have Pluto in Libra placement. People who have the Pluto in Scorpio placement can tell you that they are ruled by intensity. That is the word for this placement. Strong emotions. They react strongly. And that is a good thing because it allows them to understand how other people will react strongly. They usually are drawn to things that are very emotionally charged, things that intensely are emotional or will be intensely emotional for them. I mean, they really are good at identifying the dark crannies of ourselves, the dark crannies of themselves, and really ultimately the dark crannies of the world to bring them to the light for exposure and for healing. And the thing is that one thing that is a very big danger for the Pluto in Scorpio placement is that these people are naturally tended towards dark thoughts. And that's not the troublesome part. The troublesome part is when they try and be really, really positive and they try and act really, really happy instead of understanding that they have a gift for going into this dark thoughts, these dark spaces, and bringing them to the light, literally seeking things from the dark into the light. And when they try to escape that and just be positive, as opposed to learning to work positively in the dark, then they can lose a lot of traction in gaining on the soul work. These are the people whose minds tend to be set towards sex, definitely, the mind, genetic engineering, cloning, things that may be occult, death, definitely, things like that. And they go ask these questions. They bring them up to the surface to be studied. And I got to tell you, these are people too in these areas. If I had questions, I would ask them, because they generally do know better than a lot of people that are around them, because they're so capable of tapping into that. It is a very rare occasion, I think, that we see the Pluto in Scorpio placement having weak willpower or being incredibly poor. This is a placement that is driven towards money as well. Money and power is something that really does it for this sign. But the way that they can best use their transformative Pluto qualities is by helping to transform the world, by understanding the dark side enough to go down and get a person out of the depths of the dark and bring them to the light for safer passage. People with the Pluto in Sagittarius placement are natural explorers. They have a need for exploration, adventure, of gaining understanding of all things around them, of seeing different things. They have self-confidence like crazy to just challenge these ideas and these moral codes and these philosophies that we have in the world. And they are big pushers. You can see them challenging ideas in the realm of education. And they really, really like to just present a new perspective. They will likely, if they were raised in one religion, but they find it very restricting when they get older, they go find another one that allows them to have unhampered freedom, because they want the freedom to move. This placement can have a really difficult time with people that have a different belief than them, and they can really act kind of foolishly on it, and it's really a rough place because this placement doesn't like to be humiliated. They don't like embarrassment. They don't deal with it very well at all. So then they come up with all of these justifications for why they just acted the way they did, instead of just owning the fact that they just don't agree with the fact that people have a different religion, which is so funny because they are the ones out there challenging. Everything should be accepted. This should be okay. This may be on a social level unacceptable, but it's really okay. That's those kinds of people. They really, really do like philosophy as well. It's almost an extension of who they are. You know, they can focus on the positive of things that are happening rather than the negative. And they can really have a problem too with just kind of taking this big old, like, they leap before they look is what happens oftentimes. But this is one of those signs that we do see out bringing social change, bringing new philosophies, bringing new ideas to the education and to the forefront of our minds, and teaching us in a very self-confident way that adventure and exploration are totally okay. People who have the Pluto in Capricorn placement are our world changers. They are politicians. They are cautious and reserved in all things. Even if they completely flat out disagree with you, they will disagree with authority and kind of go their own way, but in a very quiet, patient, prudent, step-by-step, really well-disciplined kind of way. And then next thing you know, they're completely overthrowing the government in a way that is so practical and good for the good of all. They have goals. They have ambitions that they wish to achieve, and they have the absolute patience, caution, and organization to get there. Honestly, the last time we saw Pluto really shining its face in Capricorn is when the American Revolution took place. I mean, holy bananas, you know what I mean? These people can come and bring serenity and bring peace and order to where there was chaos. And I mean, that's a time where upheaval was crazy and a creation of a new kind of order was coming into place. So this is what we see these people in this placement doing. Now, some of the things they really have to work on is their impatience. And they're usually able to bring themselves back down because they're like, if I get impatient with people or with myself, that's not gonna help me at all. And they can be so practical that actually gets them stuck. But changing the world, transforming themselves from the inside out, one discipline, motivated, practical step at a time is what you're going to see with the Pluto in Capricorn placement. People with the placement of Pluto in Aquarius, this is a very interesting placement to me because they can be seen as being those people who you're like, they're bananas, they're absolutely erratic, they're crazy, but really they're not. They know exactly what they're doing. They're just so nonconformist. They are loaded with original ideas, and they really have the knack for bringing the new or seeing a perspective from the new. Now, the thing that really holds them down is that their beliefs define them. They believe that their beliefs are the beliefs and those are it, right? And so they believe it to the extreme that they follow it. They follow that perception. And what they have to learn and grow out of, especially thinking about big social change, is that their beliefs may be fantastic, but they're not so important that they allow this placement to just steamroll over people and to just disregard the rights of other people, which is funny because they are also hugely fascinated by this idea of equality and liberty. So they have this placement that makes them believe that theirs is the best idea, yet they want liberty and justice for all. So it's very interesting to watch these people work. And if they can overcome and do some of the transformative work, they get the chance to change the world, transform the world from a social perspective in a way that drastic social change could come about because of them, because of a way that they think or they perceive or they present something that we've been doing in a new and original way. People with the placement of Pluto in Pisces are very good at thinking about how their actions will affect another person's emotional state. They too are concerned with the emotional state. They fantasize about having very good behavior, very good actions, or delivering the very best line so that another person is emotionally uplifted. So much so in the fantasy that they forget to actually live in reality and they don't ever actually deliver the line, so that's something they have to be very, very careful of. But on the huge social level and on the transforming the world side, also by transforming their self from inside out, they can understand and strive to understand human emotions so much that it makes them one of the best empaths out in the world. They usually have some kind of psychic ability if they really tap into it and hone it, because it's naturally there for them anyways. Now, they have to be careful, though, because they can tap so much into human emotion that they actually become very manipulative. They become secretive, and using emotions actually becomes a weapon, even on a full-fledged social scale, as well as on themselves. This is also a placement with Pisces anywhere that can be very prone to drugs or alcohol or addictions or those kind of addictive things. And the thing is that they're very impressionable, and they see things that look very fantasy-like and very good and make them feel very good, and they tend to go towards that. So they also have to learn to ground in reality a little bit while also being so beautifully inspiring to themselves and to those about them. Those are just some common things you can see with the Pluto in Pisces placement.